Okay, so next up are 17 quadratic functions. Test three is on, so it's part of test three for this packet. Okay, when we're doing this. Today is February 26th, 2025. So if you're watching this video at some other time, if I'm reusing it and that's not the story anymore, so sorry. But as of today, that's what's happening. So this chapter or section 17 is on test three, but we're going to keep going so that we don't lose time. All right, so quadratic functions, just 3 pages, but it'll probably take us a minute to get through these said pages. Here we go. So learning objective, write a quadratic function in vertex form, determine the vertex axis of symmetry, min, max value, domain, and range, and more. Solve application problems modeled by a quadratic function. Okay, so we've already talked about quadratic functions before, back in section, I think it's section 5. So a lot of similar things going on here. General form, when we are now in two variable or two variables. We have x and y, whereas in section 5, we're just a single variable. We have the ax squared plus bx plus c equaling 0, equaling y, pardon me, or f of x, is the general form of a quadratic function. If we take this, perform your favorite morning, afternoon, your favorite activity, just, you always would like to do this. Complete the square. If I complete the square for this general form, we get what we call vertex form, which is a times x minus 8, quantity squared plus k equaling y, or f of x. We love vertex form. Love, love, love it. Because in vertex form, I can look at it and just pluck out my vertex, h comma k. So now a few back information, like what's the what? What's the deal here? So vertex is the min or max of the parabola. Oops, sorry. I should scoot this over so you can see. That'd be helpful, huh? Let me choose color. If I'm a quadratic that opens up, so let's say this is y equaling x squared. Here, my min, that's my vertex. If I am a quadratic, let's say negative x squared that opens down, that's my max. That's also my vertex. So max, vertex, min, vertex. So if I open up, I'm a min. If I open down, I have a max. But that is the vertex. The vertex is noted h comma k, just like a circle. Y'all remember from circle, we have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, where the center is h comma k. Similar situation we got going on here, right? Because the center isn't just any old point on the circle, it's the center. So it gets fancy labeling. Here, the vertex is not any old fancy lame point on a quadratic. I almost said parabola, same thing. But it is the vertex. It's the max or the min as well. Okay, so it gets fancy labeling, h comma k. And then they both have axes of symmetry, single axis of symmetry. Right? So basically, what line could I fold down and my branches lie on top of each other? So that is always the line x equals h. So when you're typing in the homework, you need to pay close attention. Do I need to put in x equals or is it already there? Because it is a line. It is a line. Okay, party people, it is a line. You need your x equals, okay? Because it is a vertical line. So axis of symmetry is what line could I fold down so that my branches, again, if I could draw, lie on top of each other. So the domain is all real numbers, or negative infinity to infinity, okay? Right, because there's nothing off limits. Like any number can be squared. as long as it's real. I mean, even imaginary numbers can be squared, but for sake of argument, we're just looking at real. So if this A is positive, if this A is positive, then the parabola opens up. Notice right here, y equals x squared, positive number. We open up. And the minimum value is the vertex. The minimum value is, yeah, the vertex, h comma k. The range would be k to infinity, right? Again, because I open up, my range would be from here. Sorry, I moved my hand. The range would be from here up. If a is negative, look right here, like y equals negative x squared, the parabola opens down. And the maximum value is h comma k, right? The vertex. The range in this case, right? We measure y, the bottom up. That would be negative infinity to k bracket, because we would start whoop, and end here. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If I open up, the range is k to infinity upward. If I'm open down, I'm negative infinity to k. Okay, so again, we love vertex form because I can just look at this and say like, oh, here's my vertex, pluck, pluck. Just like circle to x minus k, if it's a positive k, you pull out a negative number, right? Just like here. K, because it's on the outside, if it's a positive, it stays positive. If it's negative, it's negative. Also in terms of our transformations of graphs, right? X minus says you move right, X plus says that's double negative, you move left. And then plus or minus, you go up or down respectively, right? Opposite of what you think, intuitive. Opposite and intuitive. Pardon me, I need a sip of water. Okay, so state whether the parabola opens up or down, find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, domain, range, then graph. Okay, so when we're doing the vertex, you just go here and here. That's it. Don't worry about A. A is already taken care of, okay? So that's -2, 4. Remember, because here, this says that I had x minus -2 quantity squared. So it's a double negative to pull out whoop, the -2. The axis of symmetry is x equals 8. So x equals -2. Where was it? Oh yeah, so we open down because we have a -3, right? We open down because that is a negative out in front. Oops, sorry, let me switch the page. I apologize. Where are we? Domain. That's an easy one. That's all real numbers for any quadratic. The range, I'm a visual, so let's give us a visual. So the vertex is -2, 4. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we open down, axis of symmetry, there and there. Perfect. So then the range, so that means I'm bottom up. So that is negative infinity. We stop at k to 4. Then graph. All right, there we go. Yay, go up. Okay. If I wanted to ask you further, which I totally could, if I wanted the intercepts, like if I want the y-intercepts, remember you just make x equal to 0 and solve. So y equals -3, 0 plus 2 squared plus 4. So that is, let's see, 0 plus 2. Y'all follow along with me. 0 plus 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. Times -3 is -12. -12 plus 8 is -8. So my graph is way off. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ooh, ooh boy. Something like that. It was super skinny. Super skinny. But it's just a sketch, so no big deal. If I ask for the x-intercept, which I totally could, then we just make the y 0 and you solve. This is just be using the square root method. So 0 equals -3, x squared, x plus 2 squared plus 4. So subtract the 4. Divide the 3. So that's 4/3 equals x plus 2 squared. Now we square root. Remembering the plus or minus whenever we square root. So this is 2√3 plus or minus equals x plus 2. I'm going to come up and over. So subtract the 2 over. So -2 plus or minus 2 over √3 equals x. But generally speaking, in math, we don't like roots in the denominator. So we do what we call rationalizing. Which means basically we use our fancy version of 1, always using versions of 1 to get what we want. So rationalizing, again, sorry, off page. I need y'all here to tell me when I'm doing these silly things. So this is √3 squared. So that's just 3. This is 2√3. Rationalizing a denominator. So if you're like, what? You can rewind the video again or just do some Googling or search your textbook, rationalizing a denominator. But basically, you take the denominator, you use the special version of 1 that is the denominator so that the 2 square roots undo each other because that's a square root squared and they cancel each other out. So then we have -2 plus or minus 2√3 over 3 equaling x. And again, your homework doesn't have this plus minus button unless it all of a sudden started adding it. So you'll have -2 minus 2√3 over 3, comma, -2 plus 2√3 over 3. Okay. So just if you also need to find the x-intercepts, there's an example there. So moving right along. So there's 2 methods to go from general form to vertex form. What I mentioned earlier was completing the square. Okay, it's fine. It just is what it is. Again, I know it's your favorite pastime, but if on the off chance you're like, you know what, I don't feel like doing right now. I don't feel like completing the square. Well, lucky you, we have this other option. It is more of my favorite option, but do you, okay? I would totally have this on my note card for test 3 because remember, this is test 3 information. I would totally have this on my note card for test 3. So like future you, let's see, present you can grab your phone and throw this in or highlight, star, scan, whatever you need to do so that future you throws this on your test 3 note card. But this is very, very nice. For the vertex, h is equal to -b over 2a. And then k is just, you just slap that back in, right? K is just f of this, right? The output. So if this is my input, that's my output, x, y, right? So if I write the quadratic vertex, if I write this equation from standard form to vertex form, well, I'll show you 2 ways, okay? If we complete the square, remember, numbers on one side, everything else on the other. Oops, -6. I do my little like skeleton method. If I add a blank on the right, I add a blank on the left. Remember the letter drop, the operation drop. This middle number gets divided by 2. So now the binomial squared is x minus 3. And remember, it's almost telling you what to do. This is 3 squared, which is 9. So if I throw a 9 on the right, I throw a 9 on the left, pardon me. So now y over here, let's see, -13 plus 9 is what, -4? That sounds right. Let's go with that. So y equals x minus 3 squared plus 4, because now we're adding the 4 over. That's vertex form. Yay. Or, a big or, use our fun new equation. So H is negative B over 2A. B is negative 6 over 2. A is an invisible 1. So this double negative 6 is 6 divided by 2, which, as y'all know, is 3. So then K is equal to F of 3, right? Just the output value. Remember, input X, output Y. So F of 3 is 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 13. Oh, I have to do mental math. Y'all know I hate that. Okay, 9 minus 18 plus 13. Okay. Well, 9 minus 18 is negative 9. Negative 9 plus 13 is 4. There we go. So this, again, is my HK. So going back, that we know standard form is, let me grab a color, of a vertex is y equals a x minus h quantity squared plus k. You just throw in h and k respectively. So y equals x minus 3 squared plus 4. Ta-da! So either way, pick your poison. I don't care. I just want you to know one way. Like, I mean, I don't care if you do left or right, purple or blue. I do care if you know how to go from standard to vertex. I do care about that. Okay. How you do it, as long as you do it legally, right? No cheating, no nothing, no shadiness, right? I just need that you to go from, this is what we call general form to vertex form. Okay, so 3, I want you to pause the video and do it all on your own here in a hot second, but you're going to do the whole kit and caboodle. You're going to write the quadratic and vertex form, find the vertex, axis of symmetry, open up, down, domain, range, min, or max, and then the intervals where we increase, decrease the y and x intercept, and then graph it. So we haven't talked about the increasing or decreasing with quadratics, but that's okay, because we have talked about in class in general. Just remember, like increasing, right? You're just going up as you move left to right. Decreasing, you're just going down as you move left to right. I think y'all can do it. All right, pause the video, do the whole kit and caboodle, press play when you're ready. Okay. So for me, I look at this equation and I'm like, yeah, no way. I don't want to complete the square for that. No thanks. So I instead am going to use our new best friend, that h equals negative b over 2a, and that k is equal to f of negative b over 2a. But before we do that, there's a couple things we can look at right away and just pull out from the equation. And that is that we open down because we have this negative right here. I also know that the y-intercept is 0, negative 6. Because remember, for y-intercept, x is forever and always what? 0. So if these two things are 0, then y, or f of x, equals negative 6. Ta-da! Another thing I know is that if I open down, right? If I open down, that means my vertex is a max. So those are kind of 3 things that in standard form we can just pull out right away, okay, from the information. We also know, well, another thing we know, the domain never changes. It's all real numbers. Okay, for any quadratic, the domain is all real numbers. But then from here, kind of want to put it into vertex form. So back to this. Remember that our A is the coefficient of the squared term, B is the coefficient of the x term, and C is the coefficient of the constant. Okay, C for constant if you want, I don't know. All right, so here, h equals negative b over 2a. That's negative 8 over 2 times negative 2, or negative 8 over negative 4, or just what? 2? So K is f of 2. So negative 2 times 2 squared plus 8 times 2 minus 6. Okay, mental math, we can do that. All right, 2 squared is 4 times a negative 2 is negative 8 plus 16 minus 6. I'm just going to go, I know 8 and 16 is 8, but my math. So 16 minus 6, that's 10. 10 minus 8 is equal to 2. Some of y'all did that so fast, and I'm so proud of you. My brain just doesn't work that way. Okay, so we know that the vertex is 2, comma 2. So now we can kind of do, well, we'll wait to graph here in a hot second. Okay, so now we know the vertex. We know that the axis of symmetry is x equals, remember it's always x equals 8. We can also do the range. We know that it is negative infinity to k. K is 2. Cool. Okay, so we have vertex, check. Axis of symmetry, check. Open, up, down, check. Domain, range, check. Map. Oh, we can do increasing from negative infinity to 2 and decreasing from 2 to infinity. Again, because we open down, I know that we are increasing. Here's 2. And decreasing. And our change happens at the h value. At 2. Oh, sorry, I'm in the little weird box. Pardon me. Okay, intervals, increasing, decreasing. Yep, go us. All right, x and y intercepts. Oh, we did the y-intercept. Yes. All right, last but not least is the x-intercept. The x-intercept, I'm actually going to try just to do from the original here as well, just see. So if I have the x-intercept, remember y is always 0, so that's 0 equals negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 6. If I factor out a negative 2, that's x squared minus 4x plus 3. So if we keep factoring x and x, 3 and 1, yeah, perfect. So we're so smart. So does factor nicely. So this does factor nicely. If it doesn't, then you'd put it into vertex form and then use the square root method, like I showed y'all here. Okay, or you can always do quadratic equation too. Lots of options. All right, but I digress. So zero product principle says that x equals 1 and 3. Okay, hot dog. We've got everything. Now we're ready to graph. Over here. I'm just gonna go, what? I think 10s all around. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ooh, already not to scale. Look at those crazy tick marks. Losers. That's okay. Our vertex is 2, 2. So 2, 2. X-intercepts are 1, 3. Y-intercept is 0, negative 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. That's really all we need. Now let's just make the umbrella. Well, I guess another point that we would know also, because remember we have this axis of symmetry right here down. This is our axis of symmetry. So if 2 to the left, if 2 to the left of the vertex, we have a y of negative 6, then 2 to the right of the vertex, we also have a y of negative 6. So we also know we have this point right here of 3 comma negative 6 because this has even symmetry. Okay, we have even symmetry. So again, now we are just connecting the dots. Ta-da! Oh, again, hopefully yours is better than mine. That looks like some kind of, I don't know, not smooth line. Forgive me. Okay, so that was a lot, but y'all can do it. So when you look at this um homework assignment 17, you're like, oh my gosh, only 5 questions. That's when you should be super worried. Because it might only be like 5 questions, but just know that like every question has you doing all this work. Okay. So the fewer questions the homework assignment has, honestly, the more concerned you should be. But I'll leave that to you to really digest on your own. Okay, so now word problems. With both of these, our BFF really now is H is negative B over 2A and K is F of negative B over 2A. Again, X input, Y output, right? Input, output, which is why K is F of. Okay, so for both of these, for a lot of word problems, this formula is your new BFF, your new best friend forever. Okay, so a rock is thrown upward from the top of a 112-foot high cliff overlooking the ocean at a speed of 96 feet per second. The rock's height above the ocean can be modeled by the equation h of t equals negative 16t squared minus 96t plus 112. So 3 sub-questions here. When does the rock reach its max height? What is the max height of the rock? And when does the rock hit the ocean? So one big mamma jamma that I want you to take away is for word problems. Whenever you read the word max or min, I want your brain to go to vertex, okay? Whenever you read max or min, your brain should go to vertex. So when I ask for the max height, min, max height, when and what, your brain goes vertex. I need the vertex, okay? Lucky for us, we have quick equations that help us tell us what are the H and K of the vertex. Okay, so when does the rock meet max height? Well, a when, that's a T. Hopefully y'all agree, right? That's T time. So this is the H of the vertex. What? That is the height, right? It even says, excuse me. So that is the K of the vertex. I'll slap that on there too. H of vertex. If that was unclear, so sorry. H of the vertex. Okay. So what this says is you're just going to use negative b over 2a. You're going to pop negative b over 2a into the formula, and then you're going to call it good. Okay, so when, so remember this is A, B, C. So this H is negative 96 over 2 times negative 16. Let me grab my hand and damn this. Oops, sorry. Negative 96 divided by negative, what, 32? So this is 3. I don't trust myself, right? 2 times 16. Yeah, okay. Sorry. I had doubt. So 3, what is it? Second. 3 seconds. Oops, that's second. Second. So after 3 seconds, we reach the maximum height. What is that maximum height? What is that maximum height you have? Well, I'm so glad. You just pop in 3. So this is negative 16, 3 squared plus 96 times 3 plus 112. One way to do that, if you have this fancy calculator, just pop in negative 16x squared plus 96 x plus 112. And then you go to the table, go to 3, that is at 256. 256 feet. So that max height is at 256. So when does the rock hit the ocean? Well, let me show you. If we are throwing our rock Let me put the blue down here. Here's our ocean. Ooh, ooh, so pretty, so nice. Here's our cliff. Let me do that in green. Okay. Here's our person, but assume that we're just like, okay, maybe we kicked said rock. I don't know. Y'all just bear with me. Okay, we kicked the rock. So, because this is 112 feet. When does this happen? Right? This is time. That might be our max. Pretend like I can draw, y'all. Please pretend. Because clearly that is not a very good drawing. Oh, and you can't even see it. Oh my God. There we go. Okay. Much better. Gosh, y'all are like, y'all, this 30 is so crazy. But anyway, okay. So here, suppose the rock, kicked out. Here's the max. Again, pretend like I can draw, please. When does the rock hit the ocean? Well, that would be when we are at sea level. Okay. So ground essentially, or sea level. So that would be when the height is equal to 0. So that's basically AKA x-intercept. Okay. So we can do it a couple different ways. You can do quadratic equation, but y'all know how to do that. I tested you over it on test 1. So I'm going to show you kind of in the calculator how to do it and also how to find the vertex too with it. But let me change my window. We know that the max is 3,256. I'm going to use it as my guide. So a max, I think 10 to 10 is fine. My Y scale being, I don't know. I guess let's just do what this happens. Oh no, 256. This one's fine. Yeah. Okay. Then, oops, window. I need to make my Y 300. My Y max is 300, and now I'm going to go by tick mark of 20. So on the Y scale, all of my tick marks represent 20. So the graph is not, well, it's not like square because my X is 10 by 10 and ticks of 1. My Y is, I guess I can be really 100. That can be 0. No, I want it negative 50. Well, let's make it negative 100 actually. No, okay. Yeah, okay, it doesn't. Anyways, my Y scaled every tick mark is 20, so it's not to scale. But again, when are my graphs ever? Oop. Okay, so we kick the rock up. Maybe I should change this a little bit. We kick. Whoop. There we go. Here's my max. We kick the rock. We're so strong. Okay, so how do I find this point right here? Well, we can go second calc. Notice it's a 0, that's AKA x-intercept, because this is where the height is 0. So enter. You move your cursor to where you're left bound, or in this case, above. You press enter. You move it down. You press enter. And then it is at 7 seconds. So 7 seconds. Oh, rock hit the water. Yay, go us. We're so good. Okay, that's one way to do it. Or you can do quadratic equation. So you can do quadratic equation or use graphing calculator, right? If you have this, you paid a bunch of money. You should be able to use it. Okay. If you have a Casio version, same thing. If you don't have a graphing calculator, no big deal. Just do your quadratic equation. Okay. Also, I think this actually factors nicely because 96 divided by 16, yep, it's 6. 112 divided by 16 is 7. Yeah, so it also would factor nicely too. You can factor this easily as well if you just take out a negative 16 from every term, similar to what I did on the previous page, which would be similar to this, right? You just pull out a 16, this equation. Okay, so while we're at it, if I go back to the graph, you can also find the vertex here. If you go second calc or second trace, notice it says max. So you just move your cursor to where you're to the left of it. So I think I'm left, good. Move it to the right. I think I'm to the right, good. And then press enter one more time. And there it goes, 3, 256. That would be 3 when 256, what? Ta-da! You do that too. Ignore the 1. That's just because there's, not enough pixels type of thing. If you have a Casio, very similar but different keystrokes. Like you do the same thing, but obviously different keystrokes. Okay. Last but not least, and then 17 is done. Again, remember our favorite, our h equals negative b over 2a, and k is equal to f of negative b over 2a. Our new BFF. So the monthly revenue for a newspaper company can be represented by the function R of p, equaling negative 2,500 p squared plus 159,000 p, where p is the price they charge per month to their customers. What price would maximize their revenue? What would be their maximum revenue if they charge this price? All right, we read the word max. So what does our brain equate to? Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So basically all this says is P, what's the input? So the H, what is the price? The revenue, that's the K. So all this says is what is H, what is K? Bingo, bango, you're done. All right, pause the video, take it for a spin, try it out, press play when you're done and ready to see it work it out. Ready, go. Okay, so let's see. My A is the negative 2,500. B is the 159,000. And because A is with the squared term, B is with the single term. And our C would be a constant, but this is just assumed plus 0. So don't worry about C. Okay. So 8 is 159,000 divided by 2 times negative 159,000 divided by 2 times negative 2,500. I'm going to grab my handy dandy calculator here. If you go alpha y equals, you get this fancy fraction thing. So negative 159,000 divided by 2 times negative 2,500. Oh yeah, got this to a decimal. That's 31.8. So if you get a fraction and my gosh, you can't even see it. I'm in the glare. So sorry. See, I hate these. I need you. Okay, so if you get a fraction and you want the decimal, you just go into math and then down to decimal. It's like the second option. All right. So my monthly price for the newspaper is $31.08. I don't know. That sounds expensive, but I don't know. I guess you get newspaper every day, so maybe not. I don't know. So $31.80 is let's see, price to customer. So then K would just be R of 3180. So rather than putting all of that in, I'm just going to go negative 2,500 x squared. Whoops, wrong button. Squared. Oh, part. Negative 2,500 x squared plus 159,000 x. I'm going to go into the table, so second table. And then 3180. So now if you go above window, it says TLB set, that stands for table set. Second table set, you just slide the independent over to ask, enter. So now when I go into my table, you can just type in 31.8 and it pops out 2528100. There we go. So about 2.5 million. Not too shabby, I guess. I don't know. It depends on what your cost is, I guess. But that is your max. And let's see. Um, I have that in there. We just check the window. Oh, goodness. Let's just say my X window is 0 to 50. And let's go by tick marks of, I don't know. No, 5 seems too small. 10? I don't know. Y min of negative 100. We'll do a Y max of, well, we know the answer is 25 million. So let's just say 3 million. 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we'll say tick marks of, I don't know, what, 100,000? That enough zero? Is that too many zeros? No, I think we're good. Okay. So I'm gonna make this 1,000 and I'm gonna go tick mark. Oh, so sorry. Oh no, I want this tick mark of, what did I say? 100,000. No, I want this to be tick marks of 10,000. Delete. So I need to at least be down 10,000. Okay, let's just see what we got here. Beautiful. Again, had to wiggle around the formula a little bit to make sure we saw it. But if we go second calc, max, we are on the left. Then you just scroll to the right. Scroll, 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 scroll. Enter one more time. And it says, yep, $31.80, 80 cents. And then 2,500, $2,528,100. So okay. So you do, by design, have some word problems on the homework that challenge you that are different from this. That's on purpose. Okay, that's on purpose. You can get mad at me, that's fine. But it is to force you to use your critical thinking skills, think for yourself. It is to force you to open your understanding of the material and to not just like regurgitate everything that we've learned. Okay, y'all have an awesome day. And that's the end of the video. Bye bye.